So, with the several shootings in the past couple of weeks, what would you say to the people in the community who are alarmed by the violence?
That we're all concerned about what's been happening the last 2 or 3 days. We're concerned about crime in general in our city. I think we're beginning to be more active as far as the people in sharing information about what people see, what they hear. Our PD, our police officers, working extremely hard and trying to curb what they can. They have a meeting this morning, very important meeting with command staff, talking about some strategies, which I can't share, about what the future plans are as far as trying to head off some of this is what's happening. I think basically the only way you could stop what happened last night is have an officer sitting at that address. And then the question begs for an answer is how many officers does that take in front of every house in Jackson or on the same street, every house in Jackson? It's just not practical. It's not real. Somehow we've got to get people to understand that killing each other just because of some comment that someone made in a derogatory fashion is not worth, going to jail for the rest of your life. And hopefully we'll get there. We're going to have some strategies in place, and they're already in place to try to curb this, put more feet on the ground. It's not going to solve it. Not going to solve it. We're number 2 in the state as far as police officers per capita, right behind Memphis. So you say more officers, more officers, more officers, and you can put another 200 officers out there and still not be where an incident occurs, and you're right back to the same place where you were before you got 200 new officers. So we understand the concern. These are not random shootings. These are targeted situations where someone said or did something to some person, and that's their way of retaliation. Either they don't know how to sit down and talk about it, or they've never heard basically what's meant by that we're all fearfully and wonderfully made. That all life has worth to it. And unfortunately it throws in innocent people who are in the homes. Just happen to be, maybe they have a son or a grandson or a nephew that is there, and maybe that person had been involved in some comments or some action which precipitated the shooting. But it's simply not the way to correct differences, and I think everyone understands that except these people who are part of the gang culture, and that's the way they settle their issues. And we have a very, very talented and hard-working gang unit in our city, and have had, working extremely hard. They have a great deal of intelligence, which they get almost on a daily basis. And hopefully at some point we'll be able to curb this thing and get these people going in a different direction.
Now there's been a shooting almost every week for the past 4 or 5 weeks. Are these gang-related shootings?
I think yes. I think so. Most of them are. From what I've been able to determine and based on what I've been told, and it's just a matter of that's the way, that's the culture of the gang. That's how they react, and unfortunately, they get into shooting windows out of vehicles, shooting into houses. Fail to understand that someone innocent may be in that house, and we're going to certainly tighten the screws on it because it's absolutely catastrophic for a city. That we have this type of situation in existence, that we're not the only ones, but still we're the ones that are affected. That we're the ones we care about. And so I would submit to you that probably 85–90% or more of those are gang-related, that you've done something to some member of my gang, now we're going to do this. And it just goes back and forth. And there's going to have to be a stop to it.
Now, back in November, when we saw another increase in shootings, and we had you and Chief Kendrick come into our offices and talk, there was some talk about bringing the two kind of leaders of the two gangs here together to talk. Did that ever happen?
I've talked to two up here. Councilman Dodd had a discussion yesterday. But the gang culture now has changed to where you no longer, even the older gang members cannot control the younger gang members. At one time they did. You know, whatever the head of the gang said, that's what everyone did. It's not the case now. You have 14, 15, 16, 17-year-olds that are running amok, that take no direction, and there lies much of the problem, is that we really can't get to the gang leaders. Now we can get to them, and we can even our officers know some of them, but it's not that culture anymore, because they head off in their own direction.
So what's the next step?
The next step is trying to mobilize our forces and trying to catch these people and lock them up. And within 2 months, the courts will let them go, and they'll be right back. We'll catch them and lock them up again. Right now, it's estimated they take 4 offenses before they spend any time in jail. 4 offenses. And then some of them can be very serious offenses before they actually go to jail. Then when they do, they'll turn them loose in 3 or 4 months and put them back out on the street. And that's what we're facing. That's the biggest part. We've got, records indicate at JPD, just about everyone that's arrested for this type of activity and homicide, a record that stretches for years and years and years. They served a little time, they're turned loose, go on parole, they pick back up for parole violations, spend 2 more months, and they come back again. And this is what's happening, not only here, but across the state. And until our courts get serious, until our Pardon and Parole Board gets serious about getting serious about keeping these people locked up and keep them out of society, then we're not going to see a great deal of improvement.
Do you feel like that cycle could ever change?
No, I don't. I think we've made some great progress just in the past year of hitting off at-risk kids that are borderline gang or not gang. I think we've made tremendous progress. We've got several good programs who are intervening in these young men and young women's lives. But it's that generation, the 10-year span, which I'm calling a generation. The proper definition is whatever you want to call a generation. That's the right number. 10 years. From age 17 to 27. I think, by and large, we have lost them in that time span. So we lost so many of them. We lost all of them. There's still a lot of good kids out there that still are successful. They stayed out of trouble, and they're still working toward improving themselves and being a part of society. But others have just fallen off the cliff. And they're gone, and we've lost them. Who to blame? Blame ourselves. We'll take all should share the responsibility. Schools, families, churches. Programs, outreach programs to these kids. We are the hub city, and obviously we get a lot of people in here that are not from Jackson, and that's one of the, I guess, liabilities of being a catalyst in a rural area where everybody comes in for their shopping but they also come in for some activity which is not conducive to a good city. And we're going to be very vigilant. We're going to catch them. We're going to put them in jail, and hopefully they'll stay there. But we have no assurance that they'll stay there. We're trying these young kids as adults now. We're sending 16-year-olds to adult court, but still, after they go into the court, go through the court system, they'll be back out on the street several months.
Should people who are not involved in gang activity, should they be scared?
Myself, I hear people tell me, some say, they are. Others say they are not. So I think there's a huge mixture of how people. I think we all feel that any incident in our city of a criminal nature is not good for our city. Period. But people who are who are out and about every day, I think by and large, most of them feel safe, comfortable. It pays all of us to be aware of our surroundings. I don't care where we are. I don't care what city you're in. We need to be aware of our surroundings and kind of know what's going on. But I think by and large, when people hear of the incidents that occurred this past evening, obviously they're concerned with it, and I'm concerned with it. But they understand, I think they're beginning to understand that it's the culture it's the gang culture. Let's call it what it is. And it's all about, you did this to me, you did this to somebody in my gang, now we're going to do this to somebody in your gang. And so it's like this with two different groups. And thus far it has not affected, the law-abiding citizens of the city. If this is continued, then it will involve them, because some innocent person in a car who may have one of the gang members in the car, has been in the car, they think they're in the car, and they blow the windows out, or they shoot into the house and hit a grandmother, hit a mother, hit a father, a grandchild. That's when it's going to really deteriorate. It's when an innocent person who has no part in any gang-related activity is injured or killed.
And these people in the communities that are being affected but aren't involved in any of this, are they starting to speak up, or do you still see that people aren't talking?
People are beginning to talk, and up until a year ago, it was very, very difficult to get information off of any street where a drive-by shooting has occurred, where there was somebody shot at someone and they knew they were shooting at them, to get anyone to speak up. But I'm beginning to see now, and I think our police officers will tell you, that now people are beginning to speak up. We're getting more information, and we'll tie those people to that incident, get them locked up, and then the courts will let them out.